5 of the most intriguing women's perfumes I have ever smelled in my life. And of course, I have smelled thousands upon thousands upon thousands of perfumes. And it's very hard to find something with a true wow factor, as it were. I know with all of the perfumes that are saturating the market, a lot of brands are kind of taking inspiration from other brands and more popular releases. And they're kind of doing their own thing, putting a subtle twist on a familiar DNA. And it's so hard to find uniqueness and novelty and originality, but I'm telling you, there's just something quite special about every single one of these, and they all stand out. They're all very unique and charismatic, and they are truly 5 of the most intriguing perfumes that I have personally gotten my nose on. I'm so excited to share these with you. But before I dive in, I do want to mention that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, and of course, if you love smelling your best, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and please give this video a thumbs up for the algorithm. It would really mean a lot to me. And of course, with this list, we're dealing with 4 niche perfumes and 1 designer. All of, well, not all maybe, but most of these can be found at scentsplit.com. This is not a sponsored video, but I always encourage my subscribers to get a sample first. Get a sample of these fragrances, try it on your skin, see how it works with your skin chemistry, and then of course, after trying 5 milliliters of the fragrance, if you deem it's worthy of purchasing a full-size bottle of it, then by all means, God bless, pick it up. I hope you enjoy it and wear it in good health, but in good conscience, I can't really recommend that you go out there and splurge hundreds of, like 1 fragrance on this list is, and surprisingly, it's the, it's a designer fragrance. It's like $400. So I'm not going to tell you to go out there and spend all of your hard-earned money on one of these perfumes. Each one of these is a car payment, a monthly payment on a lease or something, the equivalent of that. So sample these first, see if you like them, and if you do, then that's wonderful. The first one that I want to talk about, and let's go ahead and get the designer fragrance out of the way. I think this one is absolutely amazing. It's perfectly unisex, and I think it's marketed as such. It's from the brand Gucci, and I think the brand Gucci puts out some phenomenal fragrances. I am a huge fan of the Alchemist's Garden, and there's the Osmanthus Nectar, there's Tears from the Moon. I also own a Midnight Stroll, Last Day of Summer. I have quite a number of them from the brand, but there's one specifically that I acquired recently that I have absolutely fallen in love with. This is a dark, smoky, spicy, incensey, resinous vanilla fragrance. So if you're a fan of them being a little bit on the darker side of things, I am telling you, this is one inevitably you will fall in love with. But this is very gothic, right? So this is not your easygoing, typical, everyday type of a fragrance. This is not the Swiss Army knife, as it were. But again, we're talking about intrigue. We're not talking about simplicity. We're not talking about portraying a casual vibe. We're not talking about versatility. We're talking about intrigue. And all of these absolutely intrigue me. So the first one I want to discuss is Vanilla Firenze. This is such a beautiful, spicy vanilla. It is so gorgeous. It is so charismatic. But again, it's not the type of perfume that I would recommend for everybody. Now, if you want a very clean floral fragrance, I would try Tears from the Moon, right? I think that one is super easygoing. I know they also have, I think it's an Neroli-based one in a transparent green bottle. That one is also one I would recommend. So there's a lot from that collection specifically that I think are fantastic. However, I think if you're looking for something that has intrigue, something with a wow factor, something where you smell it and you're like, my God, I've never smelled something like that before. Vanilla Firenze by Gucci. It is absolutely spectacular. Let's move on to something a bit more on the fruity side of things. And we're talking about a floral cherry perfume by Fragrance Dubois. This one is called Sarin or Sarin. This is a beautiful light cherry fragrance. And what I love about this one specifically, it's that it's not your typical thick syrupy cherry fragrance, right? So it's not going to be a Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. It's not going to be a Venom of Love by Navitus Parfums. There's a lot of Or Cherry Punk by Room 1015. There's so many thick syrupy cherry fragrances with this sort of cherry liqueur vibe to them. They're quite dense. This is very different from that. So this is a very light, elegant cherry fragrance, but it's so sensual. It's so mesmerizing, and I love it for that reason. This would actually feature very well on a top most sensual perfumes list. I think this one conveys sensuality that A lot of other perfumes don't. I think Secret Trist from the brand would also fall really well into that category. I mean, the name says a lot, but I think this one specifically is beautiful. Now, myself personally, I would wear a lot of Solstice, right? So Solstice is one of my favorites from the brand. I also really enjoy Minuit et Demi. However, that wasn't a very intriguing profile in the sense that I've also tried Changing Constants by Penhaligon's, and I tried what is arguably the designer version of all of those, which kind of preceded them all, and it's Prada Candy. So it kind of has like that floral caramel vibe, although the two niche counterparts are quite richer. I think this one is absolutely beautiful, so intriguing, and I really, really love it. I think the brand Fragrance Dubois is putting out some hits, and I'm here for it. I'm a fan. The next one that I want to talk about, surprisingly, is a floral vanilla. And this one has a lot of vanilla, some smooth woods in the dry down. I think there might be tuberose in this one. I am not remembering entirely. I just know that people do compare this one to Black Opium by Yves Saint Laurent. And I think this one is gorgeous. I can see the comparisons. I think it does kind of stand out and do its own thing. And, you know, Black Opium is a perfume that I love, and I enjoy recommending it for a night out just because I really appreciate the versatility of it. And, you know, it's a patchouli, and it's dark, and it's a little earthy, and it has the sweetness, and it has the longevity. I think it's phenomenal, but I don't think it has the wow factor. It's so easy to recommend, but it's not one where you smell it and you're like, oh, what is that? Like, that's different, you know? So this one, and I know women love this one. I mean, there are two from this brand that I think people fall in love with. The first one, if we're talking about the ladies, the first one is Ani, but the second one is 100 Silent Ways. And here I have 100 Silent Ways X, which is the anniversary edition to commemorate the 10-year anniversary of the brand. It's a Turkish brand. However, I do feel as though the difference between the anniversary edition and the original, it's not that, I think they both have the same wow factor. So I would talk about this just as quickly as I would talk about the original and vice versa. But this is such a gorgeous floral vanilla fragrance in the vein of a Black Opium by Yves Saint Laurent. I hope I didn't say Black Orchid before. I get them confused a lot, but in the vein of a Black Opium by Yves Saint Laurent, and this is really remarkable. I truly love this one. Similar presentation to the Fragrance Dubois as well. They're both in the cubic bottles, although the Fragrance Dubois, as I'm looking at it now, has the rounder edges. The other one that I want to talk about, and this one is like amazing. And I remember the moment I smelled it, the fig, the creaminess of the fig, the lactonic personality, the subtle vanilla, the iris that's in here, the tea vibe. This is such a beautiful blend of notes, and it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. I think this brand has two perfumes that I would consider to be masterpieces, and this is one of them. And for the purposes of this list, I decided to feature the original because that was the first one that I tried. The first one that I tried was the original. And I said, wow, this has a really high wow factor. I'm telling you, I fell in love with it. And just by the note breakdown, I'm sure a lot of you have already guessed what it is. This one by BDK Parfums is called Gris Charnel. It really is one of those perfumes that really needs no introduction. Gris Charnel is just a masterpiece through and through. What a gorgeous perfume, such a delightful composition. That tea vibe is everything, the lactonic quality of the fig, it's milky, and fig is a fantasy note, by the way, so they probably threw in octalactone gamma and some other molecules to give it this creamy, coconutty vibe to kind of give off that feeling or sensation of fig, but it's so beautifully done, and it's truly one of my favorites. Super high wow factor. Wood Jasmine also does this to me as well, but I find that a lot of other brands have also put out like this woodsy ambery plum vibe. You know, Andy Warhol by Bond Number 9, or Plum Japonais by Tom Ford, or anyway, there's way too many. But in the #1 spot, and I remember trying this one fairly recently. I know it's been around for a while, and having tried it again, the floral qualities, the tartness of the strawberry note that's in the opening. And it's funny because every time I think about strawberry, I always think about Burberry Her, you know? And there's Burberry Her, there's the Elixir, there's so many different versions of that DNA. And that's a very juicy, almost youthful smelling, fruity / strawberry perfume. But this one is just so interesting. There's something so mesmerizing about it. And it's like, I'm personally upset because I don't own this one. And, you know, I tried it recently, like I said, and I think when I had initially tried it some time ago, I tried it among a bunch of other fragrances. And so I didn't really, give it the spotlight or the attention that it deserved. And it kind of got lost in the proverbial shuffle. But this is, what a gorgeous fragrance. Definitely one of the most intriguing perfumes I have ever tried. And it's unisex, but I think the ladies especially are really going to love this one. And this one also kind of reminded me of another fragrance from the brand Emir, and it's called Vous Patisserie. I am convinced that that fragrance is a hybrid of this fragrance and Italica by Casa Moratti. But this fragrance is none other than Keep Glazed by the House of Oud. And when I tell you, this is such an interesting, and by the way, I'm not just intrigued by the smell and the olfactive personality. One can't help but be intrigued by the presentation as well. So it has this egg, right? And every egg is totally unique and original. And I think they do that thing where they dip it in the liquid and they allow it to dry. So no two bottles are going to look exactly the same. And this base on which it rests is also pretty heavy. I think it's aluminum. It has a metallic vibe to it, but this is gorgeous. I mean, the attention to detail on this presentation. And I think the brand now, well, I know it's an acronym for the House of Oud, but I think it's just called THOO or THOO. So there's been a bit of a rebranding recently, if I'm understanding correctly, but this is a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. My God. All I'm remembering is like iris and strawberry. I think those are in the note breakdown. I haven't looked it up in quite some time, but I'm telling you, this is such an intriguing fragrance, and you will know. As soon as you smell this one, you're going to be like, yeah, it's true. I've never smelled anything that smells like this. If I were to talk about Dates Delight from the same brand, I would say it smells like Intense Cafe by Montal, right? There's other fragrances from this brand that I would make direct comparison with other brands. And this is the case with a bunch of brands, right? Like I can do that with Nishane. I just spoke about 100 Silent Ways, but Hachavat inevitably gets compared to Creed Aventus. And anyway, this is super unique. Please try it if you can. Get a sample of these fragrances at a place like Scent Split. I use Scent Split all the time, and I will continue to use them because they are phenomenal. Such an amazing way to experience new perfumes. In any case, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me on this video. It really means the world to me, and I hope you took something of value from today's list. Of course, if you did, I would really appreciate it if you would consider supporting the channel by clicking subscribe, hitting the bell, and giving this video a thumbs up. It would mean everything to me, and I appreciate the viewership very much. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with a brand new episode.